If you had a time machine, what would you go back and change? Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back. Jamie here today. Better Call Saul, series finale, season 6, episode 13. And what an episode it was. Oh my god, I still can't believe it's over, man. 7-year journey. Breaking Bad's my favourite show. This is probably my second, and just being inside this universe one last time. It was so good. We had characters come back for the last time, a few goodbyes. No deaths, really, which was, surprising. And compared to Breaking Bad's ending, I guess it's the best way to go. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the episode starts inside the desert a few seasons back with Saul and Mike. I think the episode was called Bagman, when they were inside the desert and they got the money. And they find some water to start drinking it, and Saul asks him, if you had a time machine, what would you go back and change? He mentions his first bribe, he'd go back and not take it, but he also nearly mentions the death of his son, but he didn't actually say it. And Saul mentions going back in time and investing money to, become rich. So you can tell where the different contrasts are, where what they want. From there, we cut back to the Gene timeline from the last episode. He's running out of Marion's house, and she's phoning the police, giving the details of his license plate and everything like that. So Gene's on the run. He goes into back alleys, down some tunnels because there's helicopters out as well. And then he gets inside the town and he sees police there, and he jumps inside a dumpster, and he's got this box with all his money in, which he got from the house. And he's also got the vacuum repair number to try and get away one more time. So he's trying to get that out, but he ends up throwing all his money inside the dumpsters. All his money's gone. And because he made so much noise, the police have heard him, and they knock on and they actually arrest him right there and then. It's 10-15 minutes into the episode. So he's in a prison cell and he keeps saying to himself, this is how they get you, and he starts laughing. And he gets the idea to call Bill Oakley, the lawyer from previous seasons. He calls him and he wants him to represent him inside the case that's going to become against him. So we cut forward a bit to the actual prison, and we see that Marie's in there, Hank's wife, as a witness. She's actually in there. So, we haven't seen Marie throughout Better Call Saul, really, have we? So they've brought Marie back, and then they start going over the sentencing, how much years he's going to get. They say he's going to get life plus 190 years, man. That is some sentence right there. Saul says he wants Marie inside the room as well, so she comes in. Well, Marie starts talking about Hank and how good he was, and he'll help anyone with a smile and a joke. And Hank was a good character, he was a bit of a dick sometimes, but he was just doing his job, wasn't he, really? Saul starts telling his side of the story about how Walt walked into his office 2 years ago, and ever since then he's been scared because of the people, the prison killings. His lawyer got killed as well, his friend, and he mentions that Jesse and other people are still out there as well. So he offers more information about Howard's death, but the police aren't accepting it because they say Kim's already confessed and written out a confession, which is what we've seen, and so they already know about Howard, so he can't use that as leverage. From there we go to a flashback of Saul and Walt in the vacuum repairs basement, they're waiting to get away in season 5, and Walt's trying to fix some noise that keeps clicking, and then Saul asks him if you had a time machine, what would you go back and change? And Walt gets offended by this because he's time machine, that doesn't even make sense, because Walt's a scientist. He starts going into the logic and everything, and it's if you want to ask me about regrets, just ask me about regrets. So Saul's okay, what's your regret? And then Walt starts talking about Gretchen and Elliot Grey Matter, the company that they forced him out of, and Saul's why didn't you tell me about this? We could have done something with it, we could have sued him. And Walt's you're the last lawyer I would go to. And Saul mentions his first slip and fall, one of his scams that he first did, and he actually hurt himself, and Walt walks away saying so you've always been like this. From there, Saul's on the flight, Wayfarer flight, one of them that went down in season 2. And he's with an agent, obviously, because he's under arrest. And he tries talking to Bill on his way to the bathroom. And the agent is allowed to write down what they're saying. Kim goes to volunteer at a Florida lawyer's office who, don't charge people. And, just there to help people, really. And she just volunteers there answering phones until she finds out about Saul being arrested and being extradited to New Mexico. And then we get a cool shot of Saul, slow motion, in his suit, but he's arrested, being taken to court. So now he's on the opposite side of the law. He's still representing him. He's representing himself inside the case, but, usually he's trying to get people out, but now he's trying to get himself out because you don't want Bill to represent him. He actually wants to be his own lawyer. And he tells the same story about Walt walking into his office 2 years ago, but then he changes it and he says he was the one who helped Walt. If it wasn't for him, Walt would have been dead within a month and none of this would have happened. So he tries taking full responsibility for the whole events of Breaking Bad, really. Which, now that you think about it, if you go back and watch Breaking Bad, you can sort of say it was Saul's fault, because he does have a point. Would Walt have been successful without Saul? He wouldn't have had Mike or Gus or anything like that. I think he's got a point, I think Saul's not the main cause of it, but You know, he's not innocent either. But if he would just shut up, they had the agreement that he gets 7 years, and even the judge is like, well, that's, you know, a crazy deal. And you think about it all the time, he would have had 100+ years, but instead he could have had 7 if he just kept his mouth shut. But he didn't want to do that because he didn't want Kim getting in trouble either. And he also admits to hurting his brother Chuck, taking away his license, and that ended up killing himself as well. And, you know, even Bill's like, why'd you confess to that? It wasn't even a crime. And he's like, it is. Because, you know, he feels guilty about Chuck. And speaking of Chuck, we get a flashback to him and Chuck from years ago. And he's bringing him food, and Chuck's like, you know, I could just hire someone to do this. And they start bickering a little bit back and forth. But he also says there's no shame in changing the path that you're on. And he's about to give him a book about a time machine, but Jimmy just leaves. Then we cut back to the Gene timeline, and he's on the prison bus being escorted to the prison. And one by one, the prisoners recognize him as Better Call Saul. And he's like, no, I'm just Jimmy. Until they all start chanting and like slapping their feet together. And the guard's like, shit, you know, calm down, what he's doing. And we're like, Better Call Saul, Better Call Saul. I thought it was going to end there, but, you know, it still carried on. But you get the message, like, you know, they all respect Saul inside prison because of what he's done. So it's not like he's going to be like, you know, bullied or anything like that. He's the top dog in there, really, if you think about it. And it shows that because he's like in the kitchen getting along with everyone, they're taking over from his shift, and, you know, he knows everyone pretty much. But they say that his lawyer's there to see him, and he goes inside the room, and it's Kim, and she's actually a lawyer again now because apparently a New Mexico license didn't run out or something like that. And, you know, she's left alone with Saul in there. She gives him a cigarette, and they lean against the wall like they used to always do. And it's a sick shot because you got the light bouncing off the bars, you know, illuminating the shadows on the wall, and they're just sharing the cigarette like they always did. And she's like, you know, you could have had 7 years, but it's 86. And he's like, oh, I might get a few years off for good behavior. And then the series ends with Kim walking out of the prison. She sees Saul in there behind the bars in the courtyard, and there's a sick shot of like she's there, he's there, and there's a massive space between them. He does the finger point guns at her, and she walks away, and the camera fades away, and that's it, and Saul's left in there. And that's the end of the series. And, you know, even Vince Gilligan said, like, he's not going to be returning to this probably ever. He wants to do something new. So we've had Breaking Bad, El Camino, and now Better Call Saul. So I think that's a pretty good way to wrap up the whole series and universe. Like, what else could you do? People are like, oh, let's get a prequel series with Gus. But it wouldn't be the same without the same actor. Same with Mike. I feel like we've pretty much... The only thing I would say about the season, I was expecting more time in the Breaking Bad era, but what we got was good. But apart from that, this season's been amazing. You think about whereabouts it started with Nacho and Lalo and all that, to whereabouts it ended up. So much happened in 13 episodes. What a way to end the series, man. I love it. People have said, like, inside interviews, like directors and writers said people might not like this ending, but Jimmy's whole story, this makes sense if you think about it. He shouldn't have died. Kim shouldn't have died. And this is the perfect ending because he's inside prison and people respect him, and that's sort of what he wanted as well. He wanted people's respect. So I love this ending. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I am sad though, like I said, Breaking Bad's my favourite show. This is probably my second, and I love being inside this universe one last time. I'm going to miss it. Curious to see what Vince Gilligan does next. I'll definitely be checking out his next TV show. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this season, and overall Better Call Saul. Now it's over, man. Depression time's kicking in once again. Favorite TV shows off. But yeah, until next time, peace out in a bit.